Hello students, this is the last module of our chapter number 11, Paths to Modernization. And in this module we are going to read about the country China and what was happening in China during the 19th and the 20th century and how was the path of modernization different between the Japan and China. हम लोग ये पढ़ेंगे कि चाइना में मॉडर्नाइजेशन किस तरह से हुआ and what was the major difference that you will notice between the paths to progress and modernization between China and Japan. Okay, so let's start. So basically, the modern history of China has revolved around the question on how to regain sovereignty and the humiliation of foreign occupation and bring equality and development. So ज़्यादातर जो चाइना का जितना भी सारा डेवलपमेंट है which is based on that all the humiliation they have faced by the European powers. So we see that in the due course of the Chinese path to modernization, Chinese जो debates हैं वो तीन तरह से और तीन ग्रुप से हम देखेंगे कि तीन ग्रुप के थ्रू चाइना का डेवलपमेंट हुआ. First were the early reformers such as Kang Youyi and Liang Qichao, who tried to use the traditional ideas in new and different ways to meet the challenges posed by the West. Second were the Republican revolutionaries, very important, whose leader was Sun Yat-sen, who was the first president of the Chinese Republic and was inspired by ideas from Japan and West. And the third, we see the Communist Party of China, that is CCP, who wanted to end age-old inequalities and drive out foreigners. So basically these three represent the progress of China towards the modernization and how time to time different thinking were influencing the Chinese process of modernization. So if we first start and to understand the Chinese encounter with the West, it basically happened in the 16th and 17th century when Jesuit missionaries are the missionaries is the association of the people who basically propagate Christianity. When they introduced sciences such as astronomy and mathematics, they limited thought. Its immediate impact was it set in motion events that gathered momentum in the 19th century when Britain used its force to its lucrative trade in opium, leading to first opium war. Very important. This undermined the ruling king dynasty and strengthened demands for reforms and change. So basically उनका जो first encounter हुआ था European countries के साथ, that took place around when in the 16th and 17th century जब missionaries आए थे. But इसका जो हम बोल सकते हैं कि जो highest point था इनका, that was of in the 19th century when they had opium wars with Britain. Now very important, what was opium trade? Opium trade basically it was the situation that arised in Britain कि जितना भी सारा चाइनीज़ गुड है जैसे कि चाइनीज़ टी है, सिल्क है या प्रोसिलिन है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा चाइना से एक्सपोर्ट होता था. लेकिन जितना भी सारा ब्रिटिशर्स का जो एक्सपोर्ट है, एक्सपोर्ट की वजह से उनकी करेंसी में क्या हो रहा था, इम्बैलेंस हो रहा था. इम्पोर्ट और एक्सपोर्ट का बहुत ज़्यादा इम्बैलेंस था बिकॉज चाइनीज़ वर परचेजिंग नथिंग फ्रॉम ब्रिटेन बट दे वर जस्ट their currency was flowing in China but they were not getting it back or they were not earning profits. So therefore they thought that they should start opium, which was earlier restricted in China, but slowly with the help of the smugglers around the Canton area they started smuggling opium and slowly उसकी जो demand है वो increase होती गई and Britishers were earning a lot of money and the opium was grown where in the West Bengal region of India. Therefore, it was a triangular trade between Britain, India and China. This topic is very important. And because of the increasing use of opium, though it was restricted in China, it led to opium wars between Britain and China. Later on, king reformers, as we have studied that there were three waves of the reformers. So king reformers Kang Youyi and Liang realized that they need to strengthen their system and therefore initiated politics to build a modern administrative system, a new army and an education system and set up local assemblies to establish constitutional government. They saw the need to protect China from the colonization. Now because as we have already read कि जापान में their main philosophy or their main motivation was that they did not want it to be colonized. Their motivation behind the modernization was that they did not want it to be colonized like the countries in Asia like India. एंड ऑल्सो दे हैव सीन द ओपियम वॉर्स पहले हुई थी, उसके बाद जापान में मॉडर्नाइजेशन स्टार्ट हुआ था. एंड ओपियम वॉर को देख के जापान ने ये रियलाइज़ कर लिया था दैट दे नीड टू बी मॉडर्न and they have to have modern army so that they can face the European powers, and they did not want it to be colonized. So similar thing was happening in China as well. चाइना का जो मेन इन्फ्लुएंस था वो किससे था? वो था पोलैंड से, क्योंकि 18th सेंचुरी में पोलैंड वॉज डिवाइडेड इंटू वेरियस पार्ट्स by different countries, and therefore they did not wanted them to be divided in different parts by the European powers and also India. So in India में also they have seen that how a company like East India Company, they have established their rule. So they did not wanted the same fate like the countries of Poland and India. So therefore they wanted to carry forward the modernization. Above all, many felt that traditional way of thinking had to be changed. But as you know that the first reformers, these wanted the ways that bringing the modernization it can be done by traditional ways, but कुछ लोग इसके अपोज में थे. और जो सबसे इनका ट्रेडिशनल थिंकिंग थी that was known as Confucianism. This is very important. Confucianism was basically the teachings of Confucius, which is dated 551 to 479 BCE. So you can see कि उनका जो ट्रेडिशनल उनका वैल्यू सिस्टम है एंड देयर फिलोसफी हाउ ओल्ड इट वाज. सो जो ये बेसिकली कन्फ्यूशियस और उनके डिसाइपल्स ने धीरे धीरे प्रोपोगेट करी थी ओवर द सेंचुरीज, एंड दिस बेसिकली was concerned with the good conduct and how the moral relationship should be balanced and what was the way of attaining the practical wisdom. So therefore it was the main philosophy that had from the ancient times affected the Chinese attitude towards life, but this was now seen as the barrier for their path to modernization. So therefore now to have modernization in their own country, to train people in modern subjects, students were sent in Japan, Britain and France and bring back new ideas. The thing that happened in Japan, जापानीज़ लोगों ने अपने जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, यंगस्टर्स हैं, उनको बाहर भेजना स्टार्ट किया था. सिमिलर थिंग चाइनीज़ ऑल्सो डिड दैट. उन्होंने उनको स्लोली बाहर भेजना स्टार्ट किया जापान में, ब्रिटेन में, फ्रांस में, ताकि वो वहाँ से न्यू आइडियाज़ लेकर आ सके, सो दैट चाइना कुड बी डेवलप्ड. The Chinese borrowed even Japanese translation of European words such as justice, rights and revolution because they use the same ideographic script, a reversal of traditional relationship. So earlier जब हमने पढ़ा था कि it was Japan who borrowed its idea and traditions from China. Now China was doing the same thing because Japanese were more modernized than China. तो वो लोग वहाँ से जो उनके new thoughts and new interpretation है, they were actually borrowing that from them. इन 1905 में रूसो जापानीज जब वॉर हुई, जो कि चाइना के सॉइल पर हुई थी, द सेंचुरी ओल्ड चाइनीज एग्जाम सिस्टम दैट गेव कैंडिडेट्स एंट्री इनटू रूलिंग क्लास वाज एबॉलिश्ड बिकॉज जो पुराना इनका एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम था इट वाज कम्प्लीटली बेस्ड ऑन दी राइटिंग, विच मीन्स अगर इफ़ यू हैव गुड राइटिंग स्किल्स देन यू विल बिलोंग टू अ सर्टेन क्लास एंड नॉट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ साइंस और एनी टैलेंट और anything like that, not any skill but just the skill of writing. So therefore 1905 mein this exam was abolished. This was the whole examination system that we have discussed in class. So now we will see that how a republic was being established. The Manchu Empire was overthrown, which is the Qing dynasty, जो Qing dynasty थी, who were ruled by the people belonging to the Mongolia एरिया, और उनको दे आर टर्म्ड एज मंचूस. तो जो उनकी जो डायनेस्टी थी किंग डायनेस्टी, इट वाज ओवरथ्रोन एंड द रिपब्लिक वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन 1911 अंडर सुन येत्सेन, हु इज़ यूनानिमसली, विच मीन्स who is regarded as nobody opposed and everybody was in favor, and he is regarded as the founder of modern China. Very important. He came from a poor family and studied in missionary schools where he was introduced to democracy and Christianity. It is very important to write a note on Sun Yat-sen, and you should include all such details. And most important thing was that his program was called Three Principles. So, what were these three principles? These three principles included: first, nationalism. This meant overthrowing the Manchu, who were seen as foreign dynasty as well as foreign imperialist. Second was that of the democracy, establishing democratic government, and his third principle was that socialism, regulating capital and equalizing land holdings. The social and political situation continue to be unstable. On 4th May 1990, an angry demonstration was held in Beijing to protest against the decision of post-war conference. Because post-war conference, it was said that China will get back the territory ceded by it after the World War One, but such things didn't happen. So therefore, there was a revolution in China because now people were protesting that they, although they were promised, they have participated in the war, but still they were not getting anything. So therefore, revolutionary called for driving out foreigners who were controlling the country's resources, to remove inequalities and reduce poverty. They advocated reforms such as simple language in writing. So basically, they wanted that all the influence of the Britishers, especially, it should end in China, and now they should seriously work on bringing their reforms. The Kuomintang, which is the National People's Party, and CPP emerged as major force striving to unite country and bring stability. As we know that बहुत ज़्यादा instability थी उस time पे. So जो दो parties थी वो कौन सी थी? Kuomintang and CCP, who had took the initiative to unite the China. Now one by one we will see that which party became successful and led to the unification or creating a sense of belongingness among the China and even modernizing it. So Sun Yat-sen became the basis of the political philosophy of Kuomintang. की philosophy के basis कौन थे? Sun Yat-sen. And उन्होंने चार great जो needs है उनको identify किया, जिसमें कि clothing, housing, food and transportation were considered to be the four basic needs. लेकिन सुन यत-सेन की डेथ के बाद आए चियांग काई शेक. चियांग काई शेक Kuomintang के लीडर के रूप में ही basically emerged as an important leader, but under him there was just instability and a lot of failure, because he basically was not able to bring the changes, but during his period there were only negative changes that came in the China. Like, he encouraged women to cultivate in four virtues of chastity, appearance, speech and work, and recognized their roles as confined to household. Even the length of hemlines were prescribed. And he basically advocated a secular, rational, this worldly Confucianism, but also sought to militarize the nation. So basically, he was basing all the modernization on the traditional values, which actually did not led to the modernization of China, but in effect it actually created lot of political and social instability in China. So उनका जो सोशल बेस था वो सारे अर्बन एरियाज़ में था, जैसे कि शंघाई में, वहाँ पे मॉडर्न ग्रोथ के सेंटर्स हुए. लेकिन जितने भी वर्किंग क्लास थी उसको ज़्यादा फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ. कुछ ही क्लास थी जिनको शिप बिल्डिंग से थोड़ा बहुत फ़ायदा हुआ. They were petty urbanites, traders and shopkeepers. Urban workers, particularly women, earned very low wages. Working hours were long and condition of workers bad. So these were basically all the things which led to the failure of the Kuomintang under their leader Chiang Kai. So social and cultural change was helped along with the spread of schools and universities. Peking University was established in 1902. Important. जर्नलिज्म भी वहाँ पे जो था वो न्यू थिंकिंग को रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा था, स्पेशली जो उनका पॉपुलर जो वीकली एडिटोरियल था विच वाज लाइफ वीकली, जिसमें कि वी रीड that it consisted of the new ideas and especially the emerging new leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and of the Communist Party of China. And now we are going to read how they were able to bring changes in China. So जब जापान ने इन्वेड किया चाइना को 1937 में, गोमिंडंग पार्टी ने रिटेलिएट किया और बहुत ही बड़ी ये वॉर चली जिसने कि चाइना को बहुत वीक कर दिया। उस टाइम पे चाइना में बहुत ज़्यादा क्राइसिस था, एज यू कैन रीड हियर दैट देयर वर टू टाइप्स ऑफ क्राइसिस। एक तो इकोलॉजिकल क्राइसिस था एंड सोशल इकोनॉमिकल क्राइसिस। दोनों ही तरह से उस टाइम पे चाइना बहुत क्राइसिस में था। CCP जो फाउंड हुई थी, इट वाज फाउंडेड बेसिकली इन द ईयर 1921 जब रशियन रेवोल्यूशन हुआ। रशियन रेवोल्यूशन ने सोशलिज़म को और कम्युनिज़म को बहुत ज़्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस किया एंड दे हैव इवन स्टैब्लिश कॉमिंटन जो कि एक इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थी वेयर दे यूज टू डिस्कस द आइडिया ऑफ सोशलिज़म एंड कम्युनिस्ट आइडिया। बट जो बेसिकली रशिया का जो कम्युनिस्ट बेस था, इट वाज द वर्कर्स, बट इन केस ऑफ चाइना दे वर द पीजेंट्स एंड द लीडर ऑफ द कम्युनिस्ट मूवमेंट इन चाइना वाज माओ जेडोंग, वेरी important. So Mao Zedong, who emerged as a major CPP leader, took a different path by basing his revolutionary programs on the peasantry. His success made the CCP a powerful political force that ultimately won against the Kuomintang. Now, how did actually Mao became very popular in China? Now we are going to read about him, and he is also very important figure in China. So Mao Zedong, he had a radical approach and can be, और उनकी जो radical approach देखी जा सकती है वो जियांगजी में देखी जा सकती है, which is a mountainous area जहाँ पे उन्होंने कैम्प किया था 1928 से 1934 तक, ताकि वो गोमिंडंग के अटैक से सिक्योर रहे, बिकॉज गोमिंडंग पार्टी वॉज अगेंस्ट दी कम्युनिस्ट। सो उन्होंने वहाँ पे व्हेन ही लिव देयर फॉर सच अ लॉन्ग टाइम, उन्होंने वहाँ पे एक स्ट्रॉन्ग पीजेंट काउंसिल सोवियत को ऑर्गेनाइज़ किया, वहाँ पे लैंड को सारे को कन्फेस्टिकेट किया और उसे रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया लोगों में। Mao, unlike leaders, stressed the need for independent government and army. He had become aware of women problem and supported the emergence of Rural Women Association, promulgated a new marriage law that forbid arranged marriages, stopped purchase of sale of marriage contracts and simplified divorce, which means that he was not only working for the empowerment of the peasantry but also for women. Therefore, his efforts were becoming popular among the common masses of China. So, Kuomintang, very important, the Kuomintang blockade of communist Soviet forced the party to seek another base. This led them to go on what we call the long march, which is very important. धीरे धीरे जिस तरह से Kuomintang ने कम्युनिस्ट का वे ब्लॉक करना स्टार्ट कर दिया, उन्होंने अपना नया बेस बनाया और फिर उन्होंने उसके लिए लॉन्ग मार्च, दे स्टार्टेड लॉन्ग मार्च विच वॉज 6,000 grueling and difficult miles to Shanxi. Or when they were going to their long march, they actually motivated people to support them by bringing the various changes. Here in new base in Yan'an, they further developed their program to end warlordism, carry out land reforms and fight foreign imperialism. This won them a strong social base. In the difficult years of the war, the communist and Kuomintang worked together. But after the end of the war, जब वॉर होती थी तो दोनों पार्टी एक साथ काम करती थी, लेकिन जैसे ही वॉर एंड होती थी हमेशा उन दोनों में राइवलरी रहती थी एंड फाइनली कम्युनिस्ट एस्टैब्लिश्ड देमसेल्व्स इन पावर एंड द Kuomintang was defeated.